Hey everybody, it's Mitch and welcome to my next video. Today we have got another Dungeons & Dragons class description. In today's class, from the expanded Psionics Handbook, we have got our brother, the Psychic Warrior there. Now, the Psychic Warrior is an interesting class. So we're going to talk about a few things about them. First, we're going to talk about how they are as a character. We're going to talk about how to roleplay them, all that great fun stuff. And then after that, we're going to get into it and we're going to talk about the stats, the statistics, the nitty-gritty of things. So that's what we're going to be doing. And as like we do with every other class that we've done, and I do intend to get to all of them. So subscribe to the channel if you're interested. Anyways, let's get into this. All right, so the Psychic Warrior. Well, they are an interesting class. So basically, they are a class that values both strength of arms and psionic ability equally. They are very big on both. Most of their psionic abilities that they have are going to actually augment their physical prowess in combat. That's just how they are. Yeah, so they like going on adventures because, they can show off their abilities. They really like to show off. And they also like the treasure that they get because that makes them stronger. They recognize, hey, I'm stronger when I have a gear. This gear brings power. I like power. So yeah, their alignment tends to be chaotic. So that makes sense. Although not necessarily. It is very possible to have a lawful psychic warrior. No reason they can't be. They just tend towards chaos. So you'll see most of them are chaotic, but they were absolutely lawful psychic warriors. So if you're playing if you're the DM, and you have some psychic warriors, make sure if they're lawful, you got something of a backstory to explain that. Same with if you're a character, you should probably have something in your backstory to explain why you're different, but perfectly acceptable. Let's see. So religion, psychic warriors, they tend to not really care for the lawful gods. They like gods like Cord and Pelor and a few others. They also tend to just not like religion sometimes. So a lot of them just won't even bother. Now, a lot of psychic warriors, apparently they typically grow up in a scion commune and then just kind of aren't really into it. So they kind of leave, but they still have roots to their scion communes. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. So definitely something you might want to put in your backstory, some sort of roots back to that if you're going to be playing Psychic Warrior. As for races, commonly half giants, not a bad race actually for if you're doing a build, which we'll get into in a sec. So yeah, but any race can be a Psychic Warrior. And they get along pretty well with most other classes. Anyone that can respect their strength and appreciate what they bring, Psychic Warrior will be perfectly happy to be friends with that person. Plus, Psychic Warriors, they like to show off. They're a bit of show offs. So there's that. Yeah. So that's most. So yeah, if you're going to be playing a Psychic Warrior, you're going to want to be the big strong guy who's going out there ready to show off how tough he is. And don't be afraid to rely. And you're not going to be the type to just rely on that strength. You're going to use your psychic powers to augment your strength. You want to use every advantage you've got to be as strong as you can possibly be, because that's just how Psychic Warriors roll. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for the character side of it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into these stats and statistics and all that fun stuff. So Psychic Warriors, well, let's look at the table here. They have an average base attack bonus. Little disappointing for a combat class, but not terrible. They definitely get some stuff to make up for that. They get a good fortitude save and bad reflex and will saves. Very typical for a combat class. Now they also get bonus feats. So they get bonus feats at first and second level, and then every third level after that. And these feats are the same feats that a fighter gets, but also they can be psionic feats. So they can choose either or. So for that matter, they're better. They don't get them quite as often as the fighter, but fairly close. So that's not bad. In addition, they can manifest powers, and they're pretty decent at it. They can get up to 6th level powers, and those powers can be fairly powerful. So yeah, typically they are going to be the types of powers that are going to augment your abilities. But we'll get into that in like a second. For now, we're going to talk about a couple other things about them, like the D8 hit dice. A little bad for a combat class, but not terrible, because they're not fully combat. Like a fighter has a D10. These guys are D8. That puts them on par with like a ranger. So that's not bad. Yeah. Now, in terms of skills, very similar to a fighter, only 2 plus int at just 2 plus int, not great. Their skill list, not exactly the largest, a little better than the fighters it looks like, but not the best. So very similar to a fighter. Like this class is basically a fighter, but with psionic abilities. That's really what it amounts to, is a fighter with psionic abilities that augment his fighting abilities. It's similar to a Duskblade in that sense, but very different from a Duskblade, because the Duskblade will generally do things to like, augment the power, augment their abilities in different ways. Typically, like just putting spells on attacks and whatnot. These guys less so. Although that's a little unfair to Duskblades. Duskblades also gets a lot of buffing spells, but yeah, these guys will get a lot of buffing powers. Now, a lot of their powers are ones that give them extra combat options, which is very nice. Like Lion's Pounce is a really nice, or Psionic Lion's Pounce, very, very nice. It lets them make a full attack after a charge, which is really, really useful. Yeah, very, very good stuff. So they can get access to all this. That's only a 2nd level power. They get expand, which lets them, grow to larger sizes. Actually, they can go up to 2 sizes with that, which is pretty nice. There's not a lot of ways to go up more than 1 size in the game. It's pretty well capped on that with most other methods. So very nice. They get things where they can like basically deal ability damage to their opponent and steal that. So basically they can actually steal their opponent's strength score. Very nice. They get a lot of really good stuff. Their higher level powers tend to be focused more on making themselves less vulnerable to psionics and other like powers, other spells and powers that can influence them mentally, which does tend to be a weakness of melee type classes. So yeah, a bit of an issue. Strength is typically their best stat, but these guys could also go with like a bow. They're perfectly capable of going that route. So you could very much make a dex-based psychic warrior. That's very doable. You're going to want a wisdom stat that's pretty high, though, because that is your manifesting stat. So definitely, definitely, definitely keep that wisdom score high when you're making your character. Strength and dex always good. Con, of course, always a good stat. You never want to make your con your dumb stat. That's not smart. That's your health. So yeah. But things like intelligence and charisma, not so important. Those are kind of the dumb stats for the psychic warrior. Probably more so charisma, because intelligence is for skills, and they're not exactly great on those to begin with. So yeah. Definitely a good class. Now, if you're trying to multi-class, a couple levels isn't bad. But going quite a few levels isn't a bad option either. Very comparable to the fighter in a lot of ways. Like the bonus feats, very, very, very similar. The only major downside with these guys over the fighter is they don't get they don't have access to weapon specialization and greater weapon focus and greater weapon specialization. They're not going to have access to those because those are fighter exclusive. Well, those feats aren't the best, in all honesty. So yeah, there's definitely a lot better feats than those. But yeah, they get all weapon and armor proficiency, which is good, except for tower shields. So yeah, very similar to the fighter, except the tower shield thing. But overall, a really, really great class. Definitely something you could make a build out of. I actually have one. If you've seen my not my my big guy with knockback build video, uses the Psychic Warrior. That's actually a very critical component for the expand ability. But yeah, they get some really good stuff. Great class. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. And as always, subscribe to the channel, share the video if you enjoyed it. Because I'm going to do this. I'm doing these on every single class race and prestige class. And the more you guys do this, the faster I'm going to get those out for you. So anyways, as always, I'm Mitch, and I'll be seeing you.